and welcome to Bookspot. I'm Earl Weinberg. This time we will continue our reading of The Star Beast by Robert Heinlein. Mr. Kiku of the Space Administration has devised a cunning plan to let Lummox and John Thomas leave Earth together for Lummox's home world. But cunning plans are subject to sticky, unforeseen problems. Mr. Kiku stayed at his desk, checking papers with part of his mind while letting his subconscious feel out the problem of Lummox. He had a strong hunch that tide was at flood for humans. It was necessary to judge how to ride it. He was in this reverie when the door opened and the most honorable Mr. Roy McClure walked in. "There you are, Henry. Pull yourself together, man. Beulah Murgatroyd is coming to call." Beulah who? Beulah Murgatroyd. The Beulah Murgatroyd. Should I know? What? Man, don't you ever watch Stereovision? Not if I can possibly avoid it. McClure shook his head indulgently. "Henry, you don't get around enough. You bury yourself in here and push your little buttons and don't even know what's going on in the world." Possibly. "Positively. You're out of touch, man. It's a good thing you don't have to deal with people." Mr. Kiku permitted himself a wintry smile. "I suppose so." "I'll bet you 3-1 you don't know who's ahead in the World Series." World Series? That's baseball, isn't it? I'm sorry, but I haven't even had time to follow the cricket matches of late years. See what I mean? Though how you can mention cricket in the same breath with baseball. Never mind. Since you don't know who the famous Beulah Murgatroyd is, I'll tell you. She's Pidgie-Widgie's mother, so to speak. Pidgie-Widgie? Mr. Kiku echoed. "You're pulling my leg. The creator of the Pidgie-Widgie stories for children. You know, Pidgie-Widgie on the moon, Pidgie-Widgie goes to Mars, Pidgie-Widgie and the Space Pirates." I'm afraid I don't. That's hard to believe, but you don't have any kids, do you? 3. But Mr. McClure was still talking. "Now she's taken Pidgie-Widgie on the air, and it's really something. For the kids, of course, but so comical that the grown-ups follow it too. You see, Pidgie-Widgie's a puppet about a foot high. He goes zooming through space, rescuing people and blasting pirates and having a grand old time. The kids love him. And at the end of each installment, Mrs. Murgatroyd comes on and they have a bowl of hunkies together and talk." "You like hunkies?" Mr. Kiku shuddered. "No." "Well, you can just pretend to eat them, I suppose, but it's the biggest breakfast food show on the air. It reaches everybody." "And this is important?" "Important? Man, do you know how many people eat breakfast every morning?" "No, not too many, I hope. I wish I had not." Mr. McClure glanced at his watch. "We'll have to hurry. The technicians are setting up the gear now. She'll be here any moment." Technicians? "Didn't I say Mrs. Murgatroyd will interview us with Pidgie-Widgie in her lap and taking part? Then they'll patch it into the show. A wonderful boost for the department." "No." "Eh? Mr. Kiku, did I understand you correctly?" "Mr. Secretary," Mr. Kiku said tensely, "I couldn't possibly do that. I'm subject to stage fright." "What? Well, that's absurd. You helped me open the Triangular Conference. You spoke without notes for 30 minutes. "That's different. That's shop talk with other professionals." The secretary frowned. "I hate to insist, but if it really makes you nervous. But Mrs. Murgatroyd asked for you especially. You see," McClure looked mildly embarrassed, "Pidgie-Widgie preaches racial tolerance and so forth. Brothers under the skin, that sort of thing we all want to encourage. So," Mr. Kiku said firmly, "I'm sorry." "Come now, surely you're not going to force me to insist." "Mr. Secretary," Mr. Kiku answered quietly, "you will find that my job description does not require me to be a Stereovision actor. If you will give me a written order, I will submit it to our legal bureau for opinion, then answer you officially." Mr. McClure frowned. "Henry, you can be a stubborn little beast, can't you? I wonder how you got so high in the heap." Mr. Kiku did not answer. McClure went on, I won't let you pull the rule book on me. I'm too old a fox for that, though I must say I didn't think you would do that to me. I'm sorry, sir. I really am. So am I. I'll try to convince you that it is important to the department whether a civil servant can be ordered to do it or not. You see, Beulah Murgatroyd is the power behind the Friends of Lummox, so... Friends of Lummox? I knew you'd see it differently. After all, you've been handling that whoop-de-doo. Therefore, what in heaven's name are the Friends of Lummox? Why, you set up the original interview with them yourself, but if I hadn't happened to lunch with Wes Robbins, we might have missed the boat altogether. I seem to recall a memorandum, a routine matter. Mrs. Murgatroyd is not routine. I've been trying to tell you. You precedent and protocol boys lose touch with the people. If you don't mind my saying so, that's why you never quite get to the top. I don't mind in the least, Mr. Kiku said gently. Eh? The secretary looked slightly embarrassed. I mean, there's a place for a grassroots politician like me with his finger on the pulse, though I admit I don't have your special training. You see? There is work for both our talents, sir. But go on. Perhaps I did miss the boat in this instance. The Friends of Lummox memorandum must have come through before the name meant anything to me. Probably. I wasn't criticizing your attention to duty, Henry. Fact is, you work too hard. The universe won't run down if you don't wind it. But about this Friends of Lummox deal, we intervened in some silly case out west. You know about it. You sent one of our people. The case turned out to be about this Russian Lummox. The court's verdict, our verdict, you might say, was to destroy the beast. By the way, Henry, have you disciplined the man responsible? No, sir. Why the delay? He won't be disciplined, sir. He was perfectly right on the evidence. I don't see it that way. Better send his file jacket to my office. I want to consider it myself. Sir, Mr. Kiku said softly, were you thinking of reversing me on a matter of administrative discipline? Eh? I intend to review the matter. Because if you are, sir, you can have my resignation now. My usefulness is at an end. What? Henry, don't be nasty. The secretary drummed on Mr. Kiku's desk. Confound it, man, let's be frank with each other. I know that you career men can make it hard for an appointee if you try. I didn't get into politics yesterday, but as long as I'm holding the sack, I intend to have discipline around here. My privilege? Yes, your privilege. And my responsibility. Probably you're right about this man, whoever he is. You're usually right, or we couldn't keep things going. But it is my responsibility to review things whenever I think it necessary. However, there's no call for you to talk about resigning until I actually do reverse you. Since you have forced the issue, if I do find it necessary to reverse you on this, I'll ask for your resignation. But until I do, keep your shirt on. Fair enough? Fair enough. I was hasty, Mr. Secretary. The file jacket will be on your desk. On second thought, don't bother. If you're carrying one of your favorites, I have no favorites, Mr. McClure. I dislike them all impersonally. Sometimes I think you hate yourself. Now, where are we? Yes. Well, when we made that terrible bust about the Russian, Mrs. Murgatroyd saw a chance to do a good deed. Oh, I suppose she was out to pep up her program, but that's beside the point. Right away, Pidgie-Widgie starts telling all his little friends about this terrible thing and asks them all to write in and join the Friends of Lummox. She got over 3 million replies in the first 24 hours. By now, half the kids on this continent, and nobody knows how many elsewhere, are Friends of Lummox, pledged to protect him from persecution. Her, corrected Mr. Kiku. Eh? I beg your pardon. I suppose neither term is correct. The Hiroshii come in 6 assorted sexes. You can call Lummox either him or her. We really need new words, but it doesn't matter. Well, it certainly doesn't to me, agreed McClure. But if we had actually put the quietus on this Lummox, I believe the kids would have started a revolution. I really do. Not to mention the adults who are Pidgie-Widgie fans. Even so, the department got a black eye out of it. But Beulah Murgatroyd is willing to go along with the deal to help us out. She interviews us, and I answer the general questions, and you back me up on the details. All about how the department is careful to protect the rights of our non-human friends, and how everybody ought to be tolerant, the usual line. Then Pidgie-Widgie asks what happened to Lummox, and you tell the kiddies how Lummox was really a sort of a fairy prince in disguise, or princess. and how Lummox has gone away to his home in the sky. It'll be terrific." Mr. McClure added, "That's all you have to do. I patch in a shot of Lummox getting into the Who-Russian ship and waving goodbye. Then we all eat a bowl of hunkies. Don't worry, I'll see your bowl's empty. And Pidgie-Widgie sings his Skylarker song. End. It won't take 20 minutes and will be a big thing for the department, okay?" "No." "Now, Henry, all right, you won't even have to pretend to eat hunkies." "No." "Henry, you're impossible. Don't you agree that it is our business to help train up the kids to understand their responsibilities and have right attitudes in this modern age, the age of the community of civilizations?" "No, sir, I do not. That is the business of parents and educators, not of the government. This department has more than it can do just to try to hold things together in the face of ever-increasing xenic problems." Mr. Kiku added to himself, "Even if I did agree, I wouldn't do it by eating hunkies." A narrow attitude, Henry. A bureaucratic one, if I may say so. You know perfectly well that we are in hot water about this Who-Russian thing from other directions, too, with the Society for the Preservation of the Status Quo screaming for isolation and the Keep Earth Human League jumping on us. It gets the Council uneasy. Along comes a chance to build up public opinion against such crackpots, and you won't even help. You don't have the status quo people and the human Earth jokers bothering you because I keep them off your neck. I'm sorry, sir, but you shouldn't waste time on them either. No doubt you know that there is a money motive back of every one of these apparently crackpot organizations. Let the people with opposing economic interests fight them, the shipping lines and the importers and the scientists. Our business is foreign relations. When we are bothered by pressure groups, we should let our public relations people handle them. That is what they are for." "What am I but a glorified public relations man?" McClure answered angrily. "I haven't any illusions about this confounded job." "Not true, sir. You have the primary policy responsibility. I carry out policy within the limits of my job." "Huh! You set policy. You drive me like a horse. I'm beginning to realize it." "Sorry, sir. I suppose everyone makes policy, even the doorman to some extent. It's unavoidable, but I try to do my job." Mr. Kiku's private secretary called in by voice. "Mr. Kiku, is the secretary with you? Mrs. Beulah-Murgatroyd is waiting." "Be right in," called out McClure. Kiku added quietly, "Mildred, see that she is entertained. There will be a slight delay." "Yes, sir. The secretary's aide is taking care of her." "Good." "There will be no delay," McClure said to Mr. Kiku. "If you won't, you won't, though I'm disappointed in you, but I can't keep her waiting." "Sit down, Mr. Secretary." "Eh?" "Sit down, sir. Even the mighty Mrs. Murgatroyd must wait on some things. A major emergency has come up. You will certainly have to face the council about it, possibly a special session this evening." "What? Why didn't you say so?" "I was organizing my thoughts preparatory to briefing you, sir, when you came in. For the past several minutes I've been trying to tell you that this department has really important things to do, besides selling hunkies." The secretary stared at him, then reached across Kiku's desk. Mildred, this is the secretary. Tell Commodore Murphy that I am unavoidably detained, and he's to do his best to keep Mrs. Murgatroyd happy." "Yes, Mr. Secretary." McClure turned back. "Now, Henry, quit lecturing and spill the beans." Mr. Kiku began a full report of the new Hiroshii crisis. Mr. McClure listened without comment. Just as Mr. Kiku concluded his account of the rejection of the ultimatum, the sound communicator came to life again. "Chief Murphy here. Mrs. Murgatroyd has another appointment." Mr. McClure turned toward the voice. "Hush, circuit?" "Of course, sir. Listen, Jack, I'll be a few minutes yet. Keep her happy. But make love to her if necessary. Now switch off. I'm busy." He turned back to Mr. Kiku and scowled. "Henry, you've shoved me out on a limb again. You've left me nothing to do but back your play." "May I ask what the secretary would have done?" "Huh?" McClure frowned. "Why, I would have said exactly what you said, I suppose, but in nastier language. I admit that I probably wouldn't have thought of cutting inside them through this Lummox creature. That was cute." "I see, sir. It being a rejection of a formal ultimatum, what precautionary action would the Secretary have taken? I should add that I wanted to avoid having the department advise the Council to order battle stations for the entire planet. What are you saying? Nothing like that would have been necessary. I would have ordered the inner guard to close and blast them out of the sky on my own responsibility. After all, they're at our inner defense zone and breathing threats, a simple emergency police action. Mr. Kiku thought, that is what I guessed you would do. But what he said was, suppose it turned out that their ship failed to blast out of the sky and blasted back. What preposterous! Mr. Secretary, the only thing I have learned in 40 years at this trade is that when you are dealing with out there, nothing is preposterous. Well, Henry, you actually believed they could hurt us. You were frightened. He searched Mr. Kiku's face. Are you holding something back? Do you have evidence they might be able to carry out this preposterous threat? No, sir. Well, Mr. McClure, in my country, hardly more than 300 years ago, there lived a very valiant tribe. A small force of Europeans made certain demands on them. Taxes, they called it. The chief was a brave man, and his warriors were numerous and well-trained. They knew the strangers had guns, but they had a few guns of their own. But mostly they relied on numbers and courage. They planned cleverly and caught the enemy in a box canyon. So they thought. Yes? They had never heard of machine guns. They learned about them in a very final way, for they were very brave and kept coming on. That tribe is no more. No survivors. If you're trying to scare me, well, never mind, but you still haven't given me evidence. After all, we are not an ignorant tribe of savages, no parallel. Perhaps. Yet, after all, the machine gun of that era was only a minor improvement over the ordinary gun of the time. We have weapons which make a machine gun seem like a boy's knife, and yet... You're suggesting that these Russians have weapons that would make our latest developments as useless as clubs. Frankly, I don't want to believe it, and I don't. The power of the nucleus of the atom is the ultimate possible power in the universe. You know that, I know that. We've got it. No doubt they've got it too, but we outnumber them millions to one, and we're on our home grounds. So the tribal chief reasoned. Not the same thing. Nothing ever is, Mr. Kiku answered wearily. I was not speculating about magic weapons beyond the concepts of our physicists. I was merely wondering what some refinement might do to a known weapon, some piece of tinkering already implicit in the theories. I don't know, of course. I know nothing of such things. Well, neither do I, but I've been assured that... See here, Henry, I'm going to order that police action right away. Yes, sir. Well, don't sit there frozen-faced saying, yes, sir. You don't know, do you? So why shouldn't I do it? I do not object, sir. Do you want a sealed circuit, or do you want the base commander to report here? Henry, you are without question the most irritating man in 17 planets. I asked you why I shouldn't do it. I know of no reason you should not, sir. I can only tell you why I did not recommend it to you. Well, because I did not know, because I had only the fears of a non-human who might be even more timid than myself, or badly misled by what appears to be almost superstitious awe. Since I did not know, I did not choose to play Russian roulette with our planet at stake. I choose to fight with words as long as possible. Do you want to give the order, sir, or shall I take care of the details? Quit badgering me. He glared at his undersecretary, his face red. I suppose your next move is to threaten to resign. Mr. Kiku grudged a small smile. Mr. McClure, I never offer to resign twice in the same day. He added, No, I will wait until after the police action. Then, if we are both alive, I will have been proved wrong on a major matter, and my resignation will be necessary. May I add, sir, that I hope you are right? I would much rather enjoy a quiet old age than have my judgment vindicated posthumously. McClure worked his mouth but did not speak. Mr. Kiku went on quietly. May I offer a suggestion to the Secretary in my official capacity? What? Of course. You're required to by law. Speak up. May I urge that the attack commence in the next few minutes? We may achieve by haste what might fail by delay. Bu-Astro can supply us with the orbital elements of the enemy ship. Kiku leaned toward his communicator. It came to life before he could touch it. Chief, Murphy here. I've done my best, but tell her I can't see her. Sir? Butter it on. You know how. Now shut up and don't call me again. Aye, aye, sir. Mr. Kiku called Bu-Astro. The chief ballistician, please. At once. Ah, Cartier. Seal your end. This end is sealed. And put hush on it. All right. I want the tactical elements of... McClure reached out and broke the connection. All right, he said savagely. You've outbluffed me. I was not bluffing, sir. All right. You've convinced me that you have a wise head on you. I can't take a blind chance with the lives of 5 billion people any more than you can. Want me to crawl? No, sir, but I am much relieved. Thank you. You're relieved? How about me? Now tell me how you intend to play this. I'm still in the dark. Very well, Mr. Secretary. In the first place, I have sent for the steward boy. The steward boy? Why? To persuade him to go. I want his consent. The secretary looked as if he could not believe his ears. Do I understand, Mr. Kiku, that after rejecting their ultimatum, your only plan is to capitulate? That is not how I would describe it. I don't care what diplomatese you phrase it in. We will not surrender the boy. I was not willing to take a risk blindly, but this is another matter. I will not surrender one human being, no matter what the pressure is, and I can assure you the Council will agree. There is such a thing as human dignity. I must add that I am astonished and disgusted. May I continue, sir? Well, go ahead. Speak your piece. No thought of surrendering the boy was ever in my mind. In the science of diplomacy, appeasement has long been an exploded theory. Had I even considered sacrificing the boy, I would applaud your disgust. As it is, it missed me. But you said, please, sir, I know what I said. I sent for the boy to explore his own wishes. From what I know of him, it is possible that he will be willing, even eager. McClure shook his head. It's not something we could permit, even if the lad were crazy enough to do it. 900 light years from another human being, I would as soon offer poison to a baby. That is not the picture at all, sir. If I have his consent, I can keep the fact to myself during negotiations, play from a concealed ace. There is much to negotiate. Such as? Their science, their trade, a whole new volume of space. The possibilities can only dimly be seen. McClure stirred restlessly. I'm not sure but what that attack is still the thing to do. If men are men, some risks must be taken. Snuggling up to vermin who threaten us, I don't like it. Mr. Secretary, if my plans do not work or fail to meet your approval, then I will join you in shouting defiance at the sky. We should bargain, but bargain as men. Well, go on. Tell me the rest. We'll find out the rest next time.